Hello there. This is a really cool time to be alive. Yes. Today on Yield Today, we're just going to listen to an interview that I did with Christopher Grabe. I'm trying to remember, where is he? He's somewhere in the UK. Super cool. Met him through Podmatch. He reached out to me. I appeared on his podcast, and it's not on YouTube yet. And I wasn't going to ever be I was like, oh, I'm not going to repost other episodes from other podcasts, but I'm like, this one needs to be listened to. And I thought it was funny and I thought it was great. And I want to get the podcast back rolling. We're doing this 52 days of discipline, focus, and momentum thing. Link in the Discord if you want to join that with everybody else. And yeah, it's been good. It helps me, dude. If it helps me, it's like, it's already a win. If it helps you guys and you guys jump in with me and we can all help each other, that's awesome. So, anyway, thank you, Christopher, for doing this. I'll get you on the podcast soon. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the interview, and I'll have a link to his podcast too if you want to check it out. I think it's kind of in hiatus, but you can still check it out if you want. And with that, we'll just jump right into the interview. Are you the gum guy? And I was like, yes! What? He's like, you gave me and my girlfriend gum one time. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Because this had to have been 2, 3 years ago, but people remember. And so I try to remember that is like, you never know the seeds that you're planting.
Yo guys, what's up and welcome back to another week and another episode of the Student Path podcast. I hope you all enjoyed the last episode and been able to set some goals, and as well you've been able to see that I actually managed to complete my goal and set up a post on my social media with the steps from last episode. So if you haven't been able to do that yet, go and check out on Instagram or Facebook and Student Path podcast, search that and you will find the page. And I just want to say thanks again for all you who support this podcast and use your time listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you get something out from it and you can apply it to your own life. And I hope as well, as you can see by the title of today, with the episode, we're going to be talking about networking. And I'm not going to do it on my own. And I'm going to talk with Dallin today. So Dallin, he's studying right now at BOU, Idaho, where he's studying business management with a marketing emphasis. And he's a very nice guy. We had a really good talk, and it was very fun to talk to him about this because he had some very good insights and some funny experiences and good experience, I would say, on how to do some of these things, something I would never have done, and it was very fun. So I hope you really get something out of it. Not to say that you have to do exactly everything, but maybe you can find a way to do and make everything your own, as I keep saying. He's a guy that was also deeply interested in being able to make a small difference in the lives of others and trying to be friends to those he meets. And that's also why I want to talk about networking with him. Dallin has also since 8th grade been able to discover the power of self-development and been deeply interested in since he's been doing YouTube, and he did that when he was like 15, and he has been running track, and he also was a basketball manager throughout most of high school. And these experiences have been teaching him a lot about how to serving others and trying to seek for those opportunities of networking, getting in contact with people. He also has his own podcast, Yield Today, which is a podcast highlighting about self-care and business journey and talking about other similar topics. He also volunteered for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 2 years in Idaho from 2015 to 2017, which is kind of funny because I did that too from 2016 to 2018, so it's kind of funny to have that in common with him, have that faith. But of course, that's not what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be talking about networking, how we see those opportunities and how it might lead to a job or lead to some friends that maybe down the line, who knows, can give us a job. So I hope you really enjoyed this week's episode. And as well, if you have any questions from it, make sure to reach out to me and send me the messages on Instagram or Facebook over those pages, and I will be able to answer as good as I can. But again, thank you so much, guys, for your support. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Dallin, welcome to the podcast. I'm so grateful for you taking your time and being willing to be here and talk a bit about your experience and some of the things you learned on your student path. So welcome.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Like what we're going to be talking about today is going to be about networking and some of the things you can gain from networking and contacting people on campus, projects and stuff like that, as we kind of talked about before we recorded, and some of the messages we exchanged. But I like to ask people before we start, like my guests especially, why they chose to study what they're studying or what they studied in the past. But you're studying business management, right? So why did you choose to do that?
I had some experiences in high school that really kind of guided me down that path a little bit. Like it'd be really out of my comfort zone. I had a really cool experience at DECA, like in my local state and everything. And here's the quick story of it. I competed at the community level. I had this paper I'd written as a junior to compete in the sports and entertainment promotional part of the competition. Competed at community level, really didn't do very well. The lady humored me. We had to like come up with a record label and sell it. And I'm not super into that kind of stuff. It didn't go well. And then the state level was coming up and I could still compete in that. It just cost money. And my mom's like, hey, I'll pay half if you pay half. And that basically told me like, I believe in you, Dallin. And I worked super hard. We had some opposition, but I practiced a lot and ended up coming home from that a state finalist. And that was a real eye opener. Like, oh, there is something here. Like I have this isn't nonsense. This is useful for people and I can leverage this. So I've followed that and trusted that and felt really good about it since.
That's really cool. I always like to hear because sometimes it's an experience in the past or something that we got like a goal we had that made us study what we did, and like that's a cool story to have an experience saying I can actually go this direction. I can see it make an impact. So thank you for sharing that. I really like that because we all have different experiences of why we chose to do what we do, and it's always fun to hear how people have done it. So thank you for sharing. Um, and I'm thinking of the topic of today. Now you just mentioned something you did in a contest or something, but we're gonna talk about like opportunities and networking. So like I just want to start asking you, like how do you find opportunities either at networking or finding network like in your degree right now?
I think being willing to look beyond the moment is huge. And just knowing that every single person you're around is going to be working a job or doing something in the next 20 or so years. They're going to have a career, they're going to have skills and stuff. And you have the opportunity to learn from those people and be a part of their growing process, be a part of their success story. So I've really tried to take that in stride. My first semester, I really wanted to do as well as I could. So I took notes and talked to as many seniors, juniors, everyone I could find, because everybody at BYU Idaho is pretty nice. And I just would take notes. And I remember this one dude I met, he was super cool. And he's like, yeah, dude, maybe we could be business partners someday. And I'm still in touch with that guy. And
Nice.
he's working a really solid job. And although we haven't started a business together, we're good pals. And we talk all the time. We're in a book club together that he started. It's a blast. So just don't underestimate how powerful these connections can be. In the moment, it might be a little weird because you're a stranger to them, but it always starts that way.
Yeah, for sure. Because like also I experienced this semester, I have a lot of projects with other companies and stuff where we're trying to find a solution or develop something. But I have also moved myself out. Both you have to move yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes to talk to people, and like I always like when I'm in a group, if no one is really willing to talk to them, I'm always gonna be upfront and say I can do it because taking those opportunities can lead to something in the future. For example, right now we're working with a company, a startup, and they're doing like something I actually have extra expertise in. So right now I'm talking with the guy and we're actually exchanging something. So who knows what that will bring in the future. But I think networking is about sometimes creating a connection with someone that later could benefit both of you, either if it's like knowledge related or business related or something, or just as a source if you ever stumble across something. When I had my internship last semester, I started with in the company, and they had a 3D printer they didn't know how to fix. That was a problem with it. And then I remembered that some of my old classmates from high school, college, or gymnasium as we call it in Denmark, that they had done a lot of 3D printing. So I contacted them, asked them for advice, and they kind of helped me to solve this thing. And I was like, this is networking. I'm using my network to help me to fix something or get somewhere. So And I like what you said. It's about looking out for those opportunities. And right now, you're in the book club with that guy. Who knows? Maybe in 5 years, 20 years, you might have developed something or done something business related together. So it's always about doing that. That's really cool. And as well, like now, I don't know with you, Dallin, but I think most of us probably know about the tool or the media called LinkedIn. How have you used that most effectively, or have you used it in the process of creating a network?
Yeah, so there's a lot of emphasis put on LinkedIn here at BYU Idaho, which is pretty neat to me. What they talk about is like being genuine and reaching out to people and asking if they have a little bit of time to talk about their business, talk about their life, things they've learned. So that's how I got my current internship over
Nice.
at Stukent, was in part because of informational interviews, talking with students that are already doing internships there, and commenting on the CEO's posts and all these other people's posts. It just gets you out there. So I think with LinkedIn, my three biggest tips would be to just reach out to people, like even if it's just once a day, just reach out to a couple people, because you never know who's going to connect with you. I connected with this guy who was on Shark Tank. I watched him on Shark Tank, was like, that guy's cool. I reached out to him on Shark Tank, or reached out to him on LinkedIn. He's like, yeah, dude, let's talk. And it was such a good conversation. He's such a down to earth guy, and it was just super cool. So definitely reaching out to people, creating your own content is huge. It's really difficult to do that, but once you get started, it's hard to stop the train from going. Just get it started. It's really so beautiful how beneficial LinkedIn is, because the organic reach is insane. I think they're probably going to nerf it at some point, but for now, like I get like 780 views on a post that took me like 5 minutes to make. And it's because of the LinkedIn network has been building up, and you just make a little post, and it doesn't have to be anything big. Just what have you learned from the day? How does it relate to business? What was a little win you got? I mean, people like to hear that kind of successful stuff. So that's the second tip. And then just reaching out to, well, looking at like the companies you want to work for, and just looking at people that worked in your college or that went to your college. So like looking at alumni. So you can go to the page on LinkedIn, find a company, and find out who's currently working there that is an alumni, and you can get started with that helps you work in. And just another tip, start early, because I'm like I've one more semester after this one. I'm a senior, and I'm reaping all the benefits from all the networking that I did in the past. So
That's cool. Yeah, because I think when we look at LinkedIn compared to other like social media, I guess you can call LinkedIn to some extent. It's more professional and it's like really business minded and like, cooperative and like, it's companies out there also looking, posting jobs, other people like looking out for content and stuff. And it's sometimes you can be headhunted through there as well, and who knows, like you posting stuff or having what you had done up there sometimes might give you a better job opportunity or a new opportunity in the future. So I think LinkedIn is I haven't got taught anything in it. I signed up for it and then I just kind of starting to get a network, creating connections with people. I haven't posted a lot on my own because I don't know what to post, but that can
you
you can
got a
probably.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, that's one of the few things I actually posted on there. And it was actually funny because then one of my professors actually contacted me on the campus, and he was like, "I saw you done this with the podcast. Maybe we should contact the school or like the university and see if they maybe wanted to do some collab or something." But because, of course, student path is nothing to do with the university I have, they didn't really see it. But like that's still creating an opportunity somehow. So it's just kind of fun to see there is some hidden gems on LinkedIn. I think that could be very useful for most people too. And I think the 3 steps you came with there is kind of useful to think about on how you can use it most effectively.
And
Because
another, yeah,
yeah, I'll go for it.
I was just gonna say another quick thing, Chris, is just the fact that literally like 1% of people on LinkedIn post, or it's even lower than that. Like there's all of these eyes and nobody is like posting. And it's still that way. You think of it with podcasting too. There's only like 1.5 million podcasts out there. If you want to get into podcasting, now is the great time to get in touch with it. Both Chris and I have some experience in the space. There's a lot of tutorials out there. More than happy to help. So the opportunity is definitely there. This is a good time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people there is on LinkedIn is also just open to connect. And I talked with a guy. I somehow connected with. I don't even remember how to connect with him on LinkedIn, but he did something podcast, and I was like, how can I kind of get out to this group, and like how can you do that? And he gave me some good advice, and I actually tried to use it. And I think it helped me grow a bit. And it's kind of sometimes those unexpected opportunities comes along that way. And I haven't got taught anything in my university about LinkedIn. No one has ever mentioned it, and we haven't had
Wow.
anything, which I kind of feel is a bit sad because there's actually a lot of opportunities on LinkedIn for students. And even if you have an internship or like just sometimes looking for maybe a student job or something, you might find something on there, which sometimes I have tried to apply for a couple of jobs over there, and I didn't get it, but I still kind of made the connection with the company, now following them, seeing what they're doing. And who knows, maybe they start a new project where I might have some new skills they could use later on. I think it's kind of a great tool to use. So, but as well, like now we talk a bit about podcasting and all that kind of stuff, but side projects as well and networking on campus with other students. Like, how have you, Dallin, kind of experienced that to be a benefit for you, and how have you done that? Because sometimes you have big lectures, there's a lot of people. How do you connect with them?
So at BYU Idaho, there's generally pretty small class sizes. Usually they're around 20 to 30 at the most students. But my first semester, Chris, I remember my second class or so, I came into the studying life skills class, teachers talking about the expectations of the class. And it's like God opened my mind and just put in this amazing idea to do this YouTube workshop to help all my fellow students make YouTube channels. And it just was too big of a vision for it just to stay in my soul. So we started working on it. That right after that class, made a PowerPoint, kind of pitching it, wrote it, like, just wrote down all this stuff. I wrote for like probably an hour and a half, just all these ideas and stuff. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty new to the school. Not a ton of people know me, but I'm just going to go into the student activities office and just talk until somebody gives me a chance, right? And talked to this one person. They got me in touch with the person over talent activities at the time. And he's like, dude, I love this idea. And he gave me some money to get started and, to promote it and, school's budget. And it wasn't a ton, but, something to get started. And it was a ton of fun. So I did that. And my first semester was taking some credits and it was a little crazy, but doing that workshop was so much fun because I got to help people start YouTube channels going from zero to like somewhere by the end of the semester. And there's a couple of those people from that first semester that are still running their channels. And there's this one dude, shout out to Comic Crash Taylor Campbell, dude. He does some cool comic book videos and he's been like working at it so much and he's starting to really get the hang of it. And I'm like, dude, one of those videos is going to blow up. So doing that side project's been huge. Doing my podcast, Yield Today, with Dallin Candland has been huge. It just gives you something to look forward to, something to put that energy back into, a little EpiPen of like, this is my dream. This is what I'm working towards. This is something I'm passionate about. So it helps you go back to the accounting homework or whatever the class is that you're struggling with. So definitely a lot of experience in that space. And the YouTube workshop ended up going for another 3 semesters. So went for an entire year. I did it one more time. And then I kind of helped behind the scenes because I was busy. And then there's one semester where I wasn't even there and somebody else was teaching it. I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
this is so cool that it's still going on. So that's another cool thing, is being able to create a legacy and something that people can remember fondly. I mean, I made some lifelong friends from that. One of my really good friends now, met him from the second semester of the workshop, and we've been roommates 3 times since then, and it's been super cool. So it's okay to start really small because it can become something much more if you have the vision and you work towards it.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that because it starts in the small and then actually makes an impact on other people. And sometimes you don't expect that kind of thing. Like when you start, you don't believe that it might happen like that. But sometimes you're just doing projects or also doing like in the start of my education on university, it was kind of like I'm in this class. It was just the people of the same degree kind of being together. But after I started to do like different courses where I could kind of choose, I've been doing with other kind of engineering degrees and stuff, and it's kind of fun to see how you can use their expertise and they can use yours to develop ideas and things to get created somewhere, or it could be useful in the future. Who knows, it might not turn out to be anything, but at least now you made a connection. And I think the hard, like, I have a course this semester called Innovation Pilot. So it's like you get a problem and then you have to go through this innovation phase, 2 loops of it. So we're just about to finish the first one, doing the second one soon. But when we were creating groups, it was kind of like I knew one, so I kind of grouped up with him. I talked with another one. I was like, "Oh, do you want to be in this?" And we had to be 6 people, or 5 to 6. And then I was like, "Oh well, I'm gonna go out and talk to people and see if there's anyone," because I didn't want to end up in anyone else with the same degree as me. I wanted to be a pretty diverse group. So I think a lot of like that could be an example of networking. For example, it's like you're putting yourself out there, and that's the scary part about networking, because you're kind of taking a step out of your comfort zone. And I think it's like it gets easier with time as well, because the first time you're pushing your comfort zone and you're pushing a bit every single time. And that's the hardest thing I think about when I think networking, is like moving yourself out there in front of people and trying to be out there and say, hey, this is me, I have these kind of competence or like these skills, let's try to do something together, or like something like that, or I might be able to contribute here. And it's kind of scary because sometimes you feel you're inadequate to do that, but the journey that you learn from your mistakes, or also the friends you make on the way there, is kind of cool. So I just like the thought about networking, because it's really useful. And I don't know, how have you seen networking or like these things benefit you?
Well, I've never had to struggle that much to find a job. My very first semester, I would share a lot of scriptures with people. I'm a pretty religious guy and just was always open to that. And I shared a scripture with this one guy in the library once, didn't expect a ton from it. And then later I was looking for a job that summer and I was like, hey, do you know of any jobs potentially? I had a good vibe from him when I first met him. He's like, yeah, I work for Pathway Worldwide and here's an email. You can just send your resume in. You probably won't even have to send in an application. You just send your resume to this email. So that's what I did. Got an interview, prepared for it. It went really well, and I worked for them for about 4 months. And I had another experience. I think it was my first or second semester. Just met this guy, and I was taking a Spanish class, and he spoke Spanish. And I was like, okay, well, this is useful. I should definitely keep in touch with you. Got his number. And then, long story short, we ended up working on a potato farm together about 2 years later. And it's so much fun. So, like, you never know what those, connections can lead to. And it's truly amazing, like, how you just really don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I also think, like, as you said, you need to be out there and put yourself out the comfort zone. I also think you need to be kind of like, as you just said, be blunt a bit, bold. Just go out there and ask, hey, do you maybe know anyone that could hire me with expertise? Like, I didn't work my first semester, but thankfully, like, I had a friend that kind of connected me up with just a small side cleaning job, which is still money. I didn't really have a lot of expertise within my field of education, so I couldn't really go out and do something study related. But like the friend was like, yeah, I know a company that needs someone to clean twice a week. I was like, that's not a lot of hours. I can definitely make that work. And sometimes like the opportunities get served for you. Sometimes you actually need to go out and ask yourself. So it's also about asking for help is an important thing. And I think in network, that's why it's so important to have a network, because if you now end up one day not having a job, or might searching new opportunities, or like just having a project school related that might be tough in some ways for you, being able to ask your friends or acquaintances or your network, like on LinkedIn, in person, in Messenger, wherever you contact them, that might be 1 out of 100 people you might contact that have an answer or have something to help with you. But the problem is, if you don't ask, kind of will not find the answer, and you're just kind of thinking, oh, okay, So like I've seen like some of my friends coming up to me being like, "Oh, we have this project. Do you know like anyone that could contribute because we need to get in contact with a company?" I've been like, "Yeah, I've tried to talk to these because I know they've been talking with some before, and so it's also nice to be asked sometimes, and that's why it's also important because when you become part of a network, you're not only asking people, you're also being able to give, and that's why I think it's so cool because it's both a give and a take situation in a network, which is always good to be able to because you grow with it, they grow with it, and it's just a win-win situation for everyone. I don't know, Dallin, has there been any other ways you've been networking or anything you think is beneficial to do in the process of all of this?
Well, there's three concepts that I've kind of gathered when it comes to talking to strangers. Like, I'll talk to people on family trips, I'll talk to people wherever because I know that there's opportunities out there. One is to have something to give. So, my first semester, I gave out gum nearly every day of that semester, gave out over 300, 400 pieces of gum
Wow.
easy. Yeah, that's how I met a lot of people. I just give out gum, and there would be people that'd be like, "You're a weirdo. Why are you giving out gum?" I mean, this is before COVID, but people still thought I was nuts. And it's like you get that kind of rejection anywhere. I've done door-to-door sales since then, and you get that. So that's one thing. Have something to give. So I try to have some kind of thought on my mind, have a scripture, gum, something to give. The second thing is I always try to have a listening ear. So if somebody says something that's like, "Oh, I'm struggling," I try to like take some time out to listen and try to be very selective of that, of course, but just being willing to listen to people because that's where the connection can happen, the empathy can happen, and that's where these deeper potential friendships are born, is from that connection and having an ear to help out that person. And the third thing is the journey. So I have this concept of taking the long way. There's a quote by Zig Ziglar: "There are no traffic jams along the extra mile." And so I put that to practice every single day. I try to. I'll take the longer route so I talk to more people. And if somebody's walking one way, I'll talk with them a little bit just about their life and how they're doing. And I'll walk completely away from my apartment. I don't care because I want to like get to know the person. And I haven't always been able to reconnect with those people after, but it feels good. And it's just so much fun just being able to walk with somebody and talk with them. And you never know who you'll talk to. So it's definitely helped me a lot. So giving, listening, and being able to go on a journey with people, that those are my three things for that kind of in-person networking.
Yeah, I think that's a very good advice. And as well, like, to do these things, you kind of have to get out of your own way to do that. And as well as you said, even though you like try to give gum to everyone, you are gonna get some no's on the way, and you're gonna get rejected. But like what I normally say to myself is like when I'm doing it, what is the worst thing they can do? Say no. Oh well, I can live with that kind of thing. It might hurt in the start. I think most of us, there's also been like when you date and stuff like that as well, which we probably do in our age as well. You get rejected sometimes, and that's a part of life, and that's a part of business, is a part of your journey as a student as well on the student path. Is like sometimes there's going to be failures and there's going to be rejections and those things, and they hurt in the moment, but the thing is you also grow from them. So worst case scenario, you can get a no, and I think most over time you get more kind of hard, like you get a shell to it, so it doesn't hurt you as much over time. Like as well, like for example, if you're a door-to-door salesman, like the first couple of no's you get is kind of hitting your confidence, being like, is something I'm doing or something. But over time you're also improving, but you're also seeing that I did what I could, and that's what there is important to remember as well. You're doing what you can to get there and get out your way and actually offer something. As you said, you want to give something and you want to listen, so you're actually trying to give an opportunity or like give something to the person. So it's not you just coming and trying to get things from them, but you're trying to give them something as well, so it's them missing out as well, which is, I guess, a good reminder to remember that you're doing your best and you're doing everything you can to get out there. And as well, like, you develop relationships either like throughout your whole student path. You meet people, you make connections, but you also have to nourish them and like take care of the good ones. And sometimes you don't need to talk to people all the time after. Maybe you connect with them 10 years later. Who knows? But it's just somehow making an impact and leaving an impression can probably change a lot of things. I don't know. I'm not that far in my life yet, but who knows? Maybe that has already happened. Maybe it will happen. Like, like made an impression that will in some years give a result or something.
Okay, so real quick,
Yeah.
Chris, I went to like this like little dance slash big party thing they do on campus. They call it I Night. It's pretty fun. And it was towards the end of the night. I'd like gone to race Mario Kart RC carts, jump over mechanical logs, all this other stuff, and it was
Yeah.
fun. Came toward the end of the night, got to talk with this one friend I hadn't seen for a while. And then this one guy shows up. He's like, Dallin, I know you. And I'm like, I don't really recognize you, but I kind of do. And he's like, are you the gum guy? And I was like, yes. What? He's like, you gave me and my girlfriend gum one time. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Because this had to have been 2-3 years ago, but people remember. And so I try to remember that is like, you never know the seeds that you're planting. You just never know.
Yeah, that's actually a great example of what I just said. You don't know what impact you leave until later, and then they might come and like show or you see them. Like that situation. That's kind of fun because sometimes like make as well just trying to do a good deed every day can create a network as well. There's so many ways of doing it, but it's also about being creative in some way. So I really like that's a really good example. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. But I don't know, like, I know time is tight and we have talked a lot. I think we covered a lot of things. Is there anything else you think we should add, or what do you feel like?
Well, I think there's this real need to be compassionate with yourself. I really struggled, especially my first couple semesters, with giving myself the time I needed and just recognizing, like, hey, like what you just said, if you can just get a small win, that's going to get you really far. Like in Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about if you have a 1% improvement every day, in the course of a year, you're going to improve 37 times from where you're at. And that goes for writing, that goes for sleeping, goes for reading, goes for anything. And so I've worked on my writing a lot. I've worked on my reading a lot. I mean, my journal game is so on point. I haven't missed a day in nearly 2 years, which is insane. I've never been that good at journaling. Yeah, but you just figure out the habits, what works for you, and you schedule the time to help out yourself. And it doesn't have to make sense to other people. A lot of the stuff I do doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me. And I know I want to do this because it's in my heart. And so just don't be afraid to do those crazy ideas, because at some point you'll look back at your life like, I wonder what would have happened. And the thing is too, you never know what's going to happen. I had some experiences before COVID. It's like, you should do this before COVID. I didn't know it was before COVID. It's like, you should do this now as opposed to later. And then later the opportunity was no longer available. So it's kind of like the ship has sailed kind of thing. So there's a lot in there, but just having an idea of what you want to accomplish and supporting it for yourself with little wins, I think is one of the best things you can do. And in Atomic Habits as well, James Clear talks about it. It's like voting in an election. You're voting for the person who you want to rule, and it's always the majority. It's never 100-1 or 100-0. There's always some people on the other side. And so, I've had times where I sleep in and don't study or play Smash Bros way too long with roommates and such. But you can always bounce back and you can vote for, I'm going to be somebody that's going to wake up earlier, that's going to get ahead. And it can be really simple stuff, but those are votes for the person that you most want to become. So if you feel a little bit bogged down by that, I'd recommend just maybe documenting those votes you make for yourself, and just know that those are going to make a difference in time.
That's some really good advice. I really like that. Thank you for sharing. And as well, like, as you said, every shot you don't take, you definitely miss, Like that's if I never started this podcast, I would never got to talk to you and never got to hear about these things. And I might not have this crazy big podcast, but still there's some lessons learned in the journey. So it's just important to sometimes take the leap of faith or the jump and try out things as well. And who knows, maybe that will create a bigger network for you as well. And by doing that, you might not understand it in the moment, but taking chances is important as well. But Dallin, thank you so much for sharing. I like to ask, is there any good advice to give at the end of it? But I think you just did, unless there's any other advice you want to give before we wrap up.
So I always have something to say.
Yeah, it's always good
I always
to have something to say.
But like I try to be pretty good at listening. But since you asked, so like going back to like my first YouTube channel, there's some people that I still keep in touch with from like 2013 that found the channel and they believed in the vision of it. And so like it doesn't have to make a giant difference for a million people. It just has to make a giant difference for like 50 people, 100 people. Like that's still making a big difference. Even like 10 people. I mean, my podcast really isn't that big right now either, and it's completely fine because I know that it's at least helping out some people, and at the very least, it's helping out myself. So if you're putting your heart into it and you're really putting in that effort, you're going to reach somebody. It might take a while, but you'll reach somebody.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's because we think about, oh, well, there's all these people that make it way more big and stuff. But hey, it's just about every single one you can do. And then if you do one, it's better than none, right? But thank you so much, Dallin, for taking your time and being willing to share about some of your experience. I really enjoyed it, and it's been really fun to have you on. So I really appreciate your time and your energy and everything for sharing these things. As well, as you mentioned, your podcast was called Yield.
Yeah, Yield Today with Dallin Candland. So Yield's an acronym I came up with, stands for Yes, Sign, Vision, Love, Demonstrated. Talk about self-care and business, and also about making the most of the field of life that you have to work with. So working with your network, working with your habits, starting with what you have and creating something beautiful from it. That's kind of what I talk about on the show, and have do interviews and talk with people about how they've been able to do that.
That's cool. I'll make sure to get a link from you, and then I will make sure to leave it in the description for this episode. So thank you so much. And as well, guys, make sure to show Dallin some support and some love for his time for being on here to go and listen to some of his episodes. But thank you so much for staying tuned and for listening for this week's episode. I hope you all have a great week. And until next episode, take care.
Yeah, so that was a really fun episode to record. I had a good time talking with Christoph. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview, gave you some perspective and stuff. I've done a couple of podcast interviews, but yeah, I have links to them. I want to have links to all of them at some point, just trying to aggregate it all together. I've probably appeared on like 6 or 7 podcasts at this point, and some of them they just don't upload the episodes, so that happens, but yeah, this is what I wanted to share with you guys. And on Thursday, we're going to have another interview. I'm just going to do interview because you guys have only heard me for like the last 5 months, dude. Oh boy. Yeah, if you want to jump in the discipline, momentum, focus challenge we're doing as a team, as a Yield Today community team, check out the Discord link in the show notes. Check out all the other timestamps and stuff. Check out Christoph's podcast if you'd like. And yeah, I'll see you on Thursday with another interview. And yeah, so yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. And yeah, write down something that you want to do that you felt from this podcast, right? Because when you're exposed to inspiring content or inspiring people or even inspiring ideas, you will get inspiring ideas yourself. And if you do that and work on those things, then more will come. And you can create and you can do awesome things. You're already doing awesome things, but I don't know what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I don't know. Just, yeah, keep doing awesome stuff and write down things that you got out of the episode and do it because that will bless your life a ton. So that's all I got. And thank you so much. Don't forget to heal today and it'll be a better tomorrow.